Cool. Welcome back, everyone. John,
how are you feeling?
Pretty good, man. I got some coffee. Coffee is lunch right now. Yeah, that's
Cheers
good.
to that.
Nice coffee.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Cool. Yeah, feeling good though. Awesome workshops already. Like, really impressed with all this so far. We got a good one coming up next.
Yes, I am very excited. And hey, please do share some love in the chat. If you've already been cruising through a couple of the workshops, if you've been sticking with the live stream kind of track, or if you've been exploring, hey, gonna see what else is out there. But I will be honest, I am really excited for the next workshop. And I know I say this a lot. I know I'm kind of a fanboy and probably just about everything, but I have seen John Tuckner across the internet airwaves, over on the Twitterverse, on ye ol' X, the everything app. And my goodness, he's just always sharing super cool stuff, some sweet research of what shady, sneaky browser extensions have been up to. And it's just like mind-blowing to me because that's such a cool field. I feel like there's so many gems there. I'm just so excited to see what John's cooking up this time around.
Sounds good. Well, let's get another John on the screen over here then. I fully concur with everything you just said to this John. So now, hello, John Tuckner. Good to have you on back with us. How's it going?
What's going on, guys? Yeah, I've been on the stream the whole day. It's been incredible. So glad to be a part of it. Thank you for that.
Saw that in the backstage, kind of cooking out with over there. But yeah, cool. Looking forward to this, man. You had the interview with us, right? We were talking about just browser extensions. It's so out of sight, out of mind. It's something that can easily get bypassed when we're not paying attention to it. So what have you got planned for us today?
Yeah, that was a whole lead up into now we're actually going to show it off and actually hack with some browser extensions. So
nice.
Ready to get into the weeds with it. So
let's do it.
Yeah, I can take it from here, guys.
Yeah, pop that screen up, and then as soon as that's up, John and I will do our thing where we
disappear.
Yeah, looking for this. So like live hacking. All right, let's pop
what do you guys think?
On. Workshop agenda. It's looking good.
All right, cool.
Good start. Cool.
Yep. All right.
All yours, man.
Thank you, guys. So hello, everybody. My name's John Tuckner. I started a company called SecurityAnnex, which is trying to analyze and investigate a lot of browser extensions that exist there in the world. And what I really wanted to center this workshop around was, or in this live session, was two things. I want to introduce people to what browser extensions are and how they operate in your browser. They might just look like little icons at the top right of any browser, but there's a lot more to them. And so once we understand like how they fit into a browser, how they fit into a web page, then we'll start getting into the nitty gritty and we'll deep dive into how a browser extension actually operates. There's a lot more to the workshop that I hope you go and explore and check out. But we're going to get into the very high level stuff of this is what an extension is. And then we're going to get deep into the weeds into something super interesting, something that might actually shock you. And then from there, you can explore more of the workshop as we go along. So what is a browser extension? How does a browser work? How does Google work, basically? So when you go and visit a website like Google, you have this very pretty page, but underneath it is a lot of this really nasty text called the document object model and what is made of like HTML, right? So you're obviously not going to read all of the text below the Google search bar and make any sense of it. And that's what the browser is doing when you go visit a web page. It's taking all of that craziness and rendering it into a really beautiful experience. So you go see a web page, you get HTML, you apply CSS styling to make rounded corners and things like that. And then there's this element of JavaScript that is injected into each web page, making it interactive. This is very much, how do you change a image, or how do you, change a font in real time? JavaScript is what's really going to do that and create these really engaging experiences with web pages, right? And then what are extensions? So extensions are these small programs that fit into our web browsing experience. So not every web page is going to be able to provide every experience that every user needs, right? So you have one web browser, you have billions of users using these web browsers, you have billions of websites. not every feature or not every capability is going to be made at a certain time. And so extensions are these great little small programs that fit in and interact with specific websites for a specific purpose. So maybe blocking ads or autofilling passwords that perform all these like really critical pieces of our like add into our web browsing experience and really enhance things, right? So um, I wouldn't go anywhere on the web without 1Password these days or another password manager tool because there's just too many websites and too many passwords to keep track of. I feel like a browser extension really enhances my experience so that I don't have to reuse the same password across a million different websites, and I can just quickly access the resources that I need. And it makes the web a whole lot more pleasant. And so how extensions work is I have this diagram here on the right. You can see it, that little icon is primarily composed of two main concepts. You have the service worker and a content script. So I'm going to start with a content script. So in each extension, in most extensions, there will be a content script that is defined and it says, okay, when you visit this website, also run this additional piece of JavaScript to give additional functionality to the website. So think of if you go to Facebook and you just want to hide all pictures or all images of people, a content script would be great at doing that. It would say, I only run on Facebook, and so all of the rest of your web browsing would be left untouched. A service worker is a little bit separate. It doesn't run in any given web page. It runs about like side by side with your browser. So you can see how it's a little bit detached from the browser window in the diagram. And it handles a lot more of the like brain power of the extension. So it can communicate to content scripts. It can communicate to your web browser, but it's much more focused on like managing extension settings, coordinating between tabs. It can also make web requests out to third-party services, and it can also interact with the browser APIs. So there's some sensitive information that only the browser knows, like cookies and being able to get access to the screen that you're currently looking at. Service workers are going to be the tool that, or is going to be the piece that will get that information for you if needed and if the extension relies on it. And then there's also the extension UI. So when you click on the extension, you might get a pop-up window. Often this is great for changing settings and interacting with the service worker and the content script. But those are the primary elements of a browser extension. Extensions can only access things in the browser that you explicitly tell or that you explicitly allow them to. Each extension is going to declare the types of things that they want access to. And if there is like a sensitive permission, so if there's a way that it could possibly compromise you, the extension is going to prompt you when you install it to say, yes, I will allow this extension to read data on all websites or access your browsing history. So at least users are given a little bit of a heads up that a browser extension is going to be granted a lot of permissions or impact their browsing behaviors in some ways. And remember, like, extensions only have access to what's on your browser. Extensions don't have access to the file system. They're not going to be able to preemptively download something for you or really kind of get into any passwords or any files that you have elsewhere. Just it's only constrained to the browser. It's not going to be able to compromise another system necessarily on that you're running. So in this example, this service worker might try and access something like an API called Capture Visible tab. Because the permission in the manifest file of the extension is already declaring that tabs can be used. You'll see tabs.capture visible tab. That will be allowed in, but something like cookies.getAll will not be allowed because even if there's code in the service worker and in the extension, that's going to be denied because the extension never explicitly defines saying or asks the user, hey, can I use the cookies permission, right? And so that's a great safeguard to prevent a lot of data from being captured and used by the wrong people. But there's a lot of really great uses for browser extensions. There's hundreds of thousands of them that are published. I think a lot of them perform like a really great use, and like I said, I use a number of them to speed up and improve my web browsing experience. But there are a number of risks that come along with them, right? Browser extensions can be created and published by anybody. It honestly takes only $5 to be able to get a Chrome web developer account and publish your first extension. Now, as with all things in cybersecurity, every feature, every beneficial capability can also be used for something nefarious, right? So even just a web browser, you might go to a phishing website. We're not going to say that the web browser is a bad thing, but because it might have been the tool or because it allows for clicking on links, there's always these trade-offs. What I will say, though, is it's not easy to evaluate extensions. So you're basically given a marketplace web listing, and you're saying, and you rely on what the developer tells you that it's going to be doing. But beneath that extension, deep into the code, there can be hidden behaviors. And I don't think enough people understand what the difference between, allow changing data on all websites actually means when put into use in the extension code. The other thing is that browser extensions embed themselves into the browser, right? They operate in the browser's context. So a lot of our most sophisticated tooling, security tooling, is kind of looking past these things. All of these behaviors end up looking like normal web browsing behaviors that a user might be doing on a day-to-day basis. So reaching out to a website, sending data, all this stuff's encrypted anyway. So it's really hard to understand, like, what are these data payloads that are being sent in between all these services, and how does that differentiate from just general user behavior, right? So with that, there's a lot more here that I would love to get into if I had all weekend to go over this with you all. But the workshop will cover a whole lot of this, so you'll be able to see like how to evaluate an extension marketplace, go over the extension manifest and understand the deep ties in there, understand how a content script is injected into a website and how it manipulates data that you are currently viewing. But what I really wanted to go over today was a background service worker. So I'm going to skip ahead. And we'll get into the background service worker section of the workshop. And as I was mentioning previously, background service workers are in extensions are these scripts that run independently of any web page. They're the brains of the extension, and they're communicating with a bunch of different things like web services. They can communicate with the content script, and they can talk to your web browser specifically. A little bit deeper into how service workers can use permissions, you'll see on the left side here diagram. This is code, and this workshop is not geared for somebody that necessarily needs to understand code. All the code is available for you of a malicious extension, but you can kind of tell some of these APIs or these capabilities that can be invoked by the browser extension and how that can be used for a malicious means, right? So a service worker will utilize the permissions defined in a manifest file. They look like web request or tabs. And then they're able to execute code on the left side to be able to perform a function. And what the code on the left side I have shown here is it will look for a tab that you're running in, and then it will use a function called capture visible tab, and it will take a screenshot of the current page that the user is on in a JPEG format and lower the quality a little so that the image size isn't overly large. Then what it's going to do with that screenshot is it's going to send that data to a remote host using the post method. So it's basically just an HTTP request sent out to a remote server with the screenshot details. And now essentially your extension, and sometimes this can be used for a beneficial purpose. If you have a screenshot tool and you want to save off these extensions or save off what you're looking at to a remote server that captures all screenshots that you want to reuse and post to Twitter and things like that. But if you had no intention, or if you did not know that the extension was doing this, you had given it the tab's permission, it might be taking screenshots of what you're currently looking at and sending it off to who knows where, right? And a lot of what this workshop gets into is deep diving. How can you actually investigate that? And how can you look at this extension and be able to evaluate it and really come to a conclusion on if you should allow this in your organization or not? Here's some other beneficial service worker functions. Again, loads of extensions that are out there, published, tons of great benefits. You can block social media websites for 30 minutes, and the service worker is going to be able to help you do that by restricting access to specific websites. Maybe you're in sales and you want to bring in context from LinkedIn to Salesforce and interact with those things. Maybe backing up your critical browser data to a third-party service and being able to recover it from somewhere else. All of these are functions that service workers can perform in the background. So there are just almost unlimited benefits to them, but just know that they come with risks sometimes. So here's what I'm going to get into, right? So this is how essentially the service worker would function. The service worker will contact the browser. They'll say tabs, capture visible tab. They'll look at the image that you are currently browsing on. So say Google, and then that image will return to the service worker, and then it can be pushed on to the attacker server as well. Other things like taking your browsing history, tracking your browsing patterns. So sometimes some extensions will create a unique identifier for you and say you've gone to CNN and New York Times and Google and all of this within the span of 30 minutes, and then be able to package all that up and send that off to somebody that's doing analytics or who knows what. I also think that this is sometimes a initial access vector that some organizations should be concerned about, because maybe you're visiting internal URLs or some protected links that shouldn't be easy to obtain by somebody that isn't just sitting in the middle of your day-to-day web traffic. So how do you actually look at a service worker? In your browser, if you go here and hit manage extensions, you'll see the extensions that you have installed and are running. You can go to any of these blue links to inspect the service worker, and you'll see if it's inactive, or you can start working with your extensions. But just make sure that you understand, like, you can always access your extensions and be able to work with them by clicking on the puzzle piece icon and then hitting manage extensions. What this will bring up is a dev tools window, and we'll be able to get into this in just a little bit. Just like you would inspect a browser window, a service worker will give you about the same inspection tools, but because it runs in that separate context, you'll have to inspect it separately by going through the managed extension menu. All right, so let's get into the lab. Let me get my password. All right, and so each lab is going to come with a Kali Linux desktop with the extension, a server that will be acting as the attacker server, and a Chrome browser with the extension already loaded up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into here, and I'm going to start running my attacker server. You'll see that the Flask app has started and debugging is on, so it'll start printing out everything. And and you can explore like the manifest and a whole bunch of other things. Like I mentioned, you can look into the server, you can look at the extension. So if we want to like look at the background script and the service worker, then we can inspect all of the capabilities of it. All of this is available to you in your lab. Let's open up Google. All right. And so now I have this extension and I have my server, and it's already capturing some data. What I have turned on, the features of the extension that I have turned on right now, and these are all, you can click these on and off to activate them or turn them off. Right now, it's just going to be tracking me and all URLs that I visit. So if I just go to Google, you'll see that I went to Google and my attacking server has started sending, or it started receiving data from the extension that I went to Google. Let's look in and start inspecting this investigating this extension. So again, I went to the extension and then I went to the service worker. And if I go in here, now I'm lucky that I created this extension to log output and give messages to the remote server in the console view, but you will also be able to tell if I go to things like ESPN, you will start seeing data being sent from the extension to the local host, and there will be it'll be post data, and you'll see the URL payloads that I'm sending. There's a lot that happens in the background when you go visit a new page, so this is going to get pretty noisy, but you can see that all the URLs that I'm contacting are now being sent off to this third party, in addition to some form data. So if I submitted my username and password, that will be shown in red here. And this is stuff that is just happening in the background. Obviously, I didn't submit a form here, but because of the type of payload that the extension picked up on, it identified something as form data, and it's going to send that separately to the server. And so as an attacker, I would be able to collect that in a certain way. So as I am here, and I'm going to clear the log right now. Obviously, it's still very noisy. There's new resources being loaded. Let's actually... I'm going to actually get off this web page for a second. All right, there we go. All right, now I'm going to turn on a different functionality. So this one's going to be screenshots and cookies. And so again, if I go to google.com, over here, I'm now capturing cookies that Google is setting for me, and I'm taking screenshots and sending them off to the remote server. You'll start seeing the screenshots data being sent off to the server. It's going to be saved off by the server. Let me go to another web page while I'm here. All right, so we have all of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the server folder and start inspecting my server that I'm saving all this information off to. And here you can start seeing I'm capturing screenshots from the extension of the web pages that I went and visited. Now, this is concerning to me because this is basically giving a blueprint to somebody of, hey, this is what the user currently looks at, or maybe there's data in these screenshots. Maybe you're looking at financial documents that can then be scraped out of the documents and be utilized separately somewhere else. You can see even when I'm not on a web page, I'm capturing the type of experience that I'm going to. And then if we go to the cookies folder, you can see all of the cookies that are being stored, and they're nicely formatted. And this allows you to, the attacker, to be able to replay some of these cookies. So a cookie is set when you log into a web service. The server gives you back that cookie. If the attacker is able to get a hold of it, it can replay that and basically impersonate you as the person on that website, because you have the cookie, and you probably shouldn't have. I think that this can lead to a lot of really sensitive post compromises as well. So, say you get access to Salesforce or another or something else, just because you've replayed that session once doesn't mean that you have to keep replaying that session. Somebody could set up more permanent access by adding themselves to a GitHub organization or to the Salesforce tenant, or yeah, the options are unlimited at this point. So as long as you get these cookies, it can pose a great risk to an organization. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. This is part of the lab. This is part of the workshop. You'll get to this. You'll begin exploring. Again, all of the code is available here. You can go to the desktop server. You can explore app.py. This is the attacker server and the types of capabilities that it gives. And then the full extension code is also available. There's the content scripts and all of the capabilities. I'll cover a little bit of how this works. So we took a quick brief look at capturing the visible tab. This is how the form data would be sent. So there's a queue for before you send a web request, add a listener. And if there is a web request happening, you can take out the request body and the request form data and then send it off to that attacker. And this is what it would look like. So this is a very contained function. You don't necessarily need to know JavaScript, but once you can understand the types of behaviors to look for, like that interact with the APIs of Chrome, then you start getting a better feel for, okay, I don't think that this extension should be accessing cookies, and I don't think it should be contacting third-party services. Something's up here. All that I wanted this extension to do was change all the font on my website to Comic Sans, right? So you need to look at it from the perspective of both what does the extension claim that it does. Obviously, it will try and ask you for permissions to accept, and maybe you understand them, maybe you don't. But deep in under all of that, under the hood, there could be other behaviors, and this is how you would get access to that and be able to start inspecting it. I should say a lot of this is also available in the web browser, so you don't need to have the extension on disk if you can get access to the extension and begin inspecting it from that perspective as well. So, you know, this is a really nice workshop. We're in a contained environment, very practical and safe. What I now want to do is I just want to show, like, there are real world implications here. We've tried to create security measures and passwords with the utmost security, the most advanced security that we've been able to ever design. And that might still not be enough because browser extensions exist in our world, right? So what I have here, this is, I didn't want to bring this into the lab environment, but this is how an extension could impact you in the day-to-day. So I have another version of this running on my laptop, and I'm going to actually put in my passwords to this and be able to show you the implications and how this can actually work in a real world scenario. So I'm here on GitHub. I have my evil extension installed. I'm going to go to sign in. Again, I'm going to use one password. This does not rely on one password, but I'm going to use a passkey that I have installed in there to log into GitHub. And so I think passkeys are a great resource. I think they're as good of authentication material that we've ever been able to come up with. And then I'm going to go and view my source code. All right. So again, my extension is taking screenshots of everywhere that I'm going on the page. It's seeing exactly where what I'm gonna access when I finally get access to the resource. And then it's also sending off the cookies. And as I mentioned, an attacker could take those cookies and end up replaying them. So I'm going to have an incognito window and go to github.com. You can see that I'd have to sign in. I'm going to ironically use another extension called Cookie Editor to set cookies, but I'm going to use those cookies that I exfiltrated from my login session and import them. Then all I'm going to do here is I'm going to refresh the page, and now I've become that login session, and I can interact with my source code and add myself to this private repository that wouldn't be able to exist otherwise. You can see that I'm logged in as this account. So really dangerous stuff. I think extensions are such an underappreciated risk in many organizations, and it can really provide. It's really hard to track down these scenarios where somebody might get access to this type of authentication material based on info stealing and then be able to replay it from afar. How do you track that back down to a browser extension that one person has installed? Might be pretty tricky, especially if that person just keeps getting compromised every other week, right? So thank you for sitting through that demo. I hope you appreciate the workshop and are able to work through it. I'm going to be in the Discord helping people out and go through all the sections there. Happy to take any questions, and yeah, I appreciate it. Hope this really inspires some more people to look at the extensions that they have in their organization.
Awesome. Sounds good, John. That was really cool, man. I'm going to see that. I think I saw some good questions here in chat. So I'll go and highlight those on. I don't know if you want to keep your screen up as well, too, if anyone had questions about the demo content itself. But one second over here. Let's kind of fly back up. I know John's over there as well. Hey, John. There we go. Claire, with a whole lot of A's, is asking, presumably this would generally all work in similar ways in other browsers. So different syntax? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, they all have seemingly about the same APIs available to them. I'm trying to... Did the GitHub demo not go through?
Are you sharing that right now?
No, I'm not. But somebody had a message that they couldn't see the GitHub. I don't know if you guys saw it. I can reshare and do the demo real quick.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
Also, while you're doing that, I think there was another question as well, or rather a comment actually. Passkeys and passwords, because everything was trying to push you over to passkeys. I don't know if you have anything comment on that, just with extensions and such as well, while you're kind of sharing.
Yeah, passkeys are definitely difficult to manage, but I do think that they're the best security that we've really kind of come up with to this point. So it's a trade-off for sure. I don't think that the user experience is for everybody, but again, like there's nothing like a fingerprint or something biometrically tied to you that we can turn into like encryption keys and prevent people from getting into anything. Well, yeah, everybody's saying that the GitHub demo didn't trigger.
Whoa.
So sorry for that.
Went down a tunnel there. Okay.
All right.
Go ahead.
We'll get into the GitHub demo. Sorry about that, guys.
I'm going to.
All right. So let's redo that one. All right. Let's log out of GitHub. So again, I have the extension running over here, the evil extension that we went through in the demo, and this is just the real world application of it. I'm going to sign in with a passkey to GitHub. It would generally ask me if I wanted to actually go and use a passkey, but anyways, since we're replaying it, what I have here is like, obviously I'm logged into GitHub now. I'm going to go back to that server that I was talking about, and I'm tracking like where I logged into and all of the screens that I went and visited, right? That are being captured into the third party. And then I'm also saving off the cookies that GitHub is setting for me when I logged into that session. So if I go back here and I open up a private browsing window, I go to github.com. I can then use this cookie editor and take the cookies on my attacker server, import them in here, refresh, and now I've become the user again. So like obviously incognito window, I've taken this session. I had no idea what the username and password was. I just set the cookies and I refreshed my window, and now I have access to this GitHub repository. So thank you for the heads up on that, folks.
Sounds good.
Getting the squad, getting the gang all back together.
Yeah. Cool. Nice. Good little review of that. Jug Pearl over here's got an interesting question. How can you block users that are trying to do some of this stuff using malicious extensions and such?
Yeah, so I would take this from a couple different paths. You would definitely want to like look at how long that extension has been published for, how many other people are using it. I think there's a small group of extensions that have over 500,000 users or more. So make sure that there's at least some reputation that goes along with it. Check the reviews. There's a whole lot more techniques that are very kind of like surface level that you can get into from through the workshop. But then obviously you're talking about some very in the weeds type behaviors and like modifying the DOM or injecting malicious JavaScript. So I think to some extent you have to look at the manifest file and start looking at the behaviors of that and like what content scripts it loads. That isn't often very easy to get access to, those manifest files. What the tool that I've created, SecureAnix, allows you to do is like look through the whole extension packages and be able to look through some of the code before actually having to install it or do anything like that, along with automated analysis of all of this. So you don't have to go to the lengths of picking through all the files and being an expert either. So there's a lot of supported technology. So you'll be able to understand the risks that a browser extension might be and behaviors that an extension might be using.
Cool. One other comment as well too. Not sure how much we know about the Kaspersky write-up, because I think this is kind of like a multi-layered question, but I guess maybe just autofills in general, like how much of an issue that is between different extensions and such, and maybe some cross-site request forgery. I don't know. I'm trying to break that question apart myself. What do you think?
Kaspersky put out a really good report. A number of them, but there's a lot of behaviors like that can be very invisible to users that browser extensions use. I've been tracking something that I need to do a write-up on. It will like basically load a hidden iframe in websites and begin scraping data and send it back to a server. And this is a way that some extension owners are monetizing their extension, because they're basically giving access to these real life users to be able to like load websites. I think the autofill values is a great example of this as well, that if you're able to capture and like a credit card info by just creating something that says credit card field on a web page, it can be super nasty. And so all of this is just kind of added into the risks of browser extensions and the permission structures.
Fair enough. Yeah, pretty good thing for social engineering campaigns, whether you're testing or executing them, right? Kind of gathering those expected values. We got John coming right back there. Yes, what's going on? Cool. Let's see, were there any other questions kind of rolling up over there as well? Otherwise, let me get to the bottom of the chat. Yeah, let's go back down.
I see one question that's, does a dev have to pay for each extension they publish, or only once to get the dev account? It's just once to get the dev account, and then you can publish many of them. Cool. And so, it's actually been really interesting. There's some developers that basically rebrand the same extension multiple different times. One is like a ad blocker, another one is like a antivirus, and another one is like a torrent. And it's all different flavors that would try and pick up on searches and things like that, but they all operate the same. It's basically the same extension.
That's the one right there. Okay, yeah, cool. I see it in chat now. Yeah, that's one you were just talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned a little bit about that on the interview, right? Just there was that one developer that basically just kind of like handed you the extension, I think it was.
Yeah. So there's some extension marketplaces that developers, once they get a lot of adoption in their extension, they might find it too much to manage and keep up with the bug reports and new features and all of that. But at the same time, they kind of started as a hobbyist project. So why not try and get paid for it? And so you can list your extension up there. However, if you have published that extension with permissions that somebody else might find desirable, and that might allow for creeping on users in specific ways, it's been known that some attackers are purchasing those extensions, transferring ownership once they have control of it, injecting new packages and new capabilities to that extension that can really reduce privacy or begin to compromise users.
It's rough. Chain of custody gets compromised right there. Cool. Okay, well, I think we're coming up a little bit in time as well, too. Does anyone else have any more direct questions they want to ask John directly on the workshop himself, browser extensions? Kind of give a minute over there for some questions to come up as well.
I'd love to ask, hey, how can folks, I don't know, play a little bit more? Is there anything that Secure Annex is kind of putting out or offering, or folks to be able to dig in or play and investigate? I don't know, anything on that end?
Yeah, so I've really started this tool to be consumer focused, and I want to get this information to as many people as possible. Obviously, I want to make a living and get by, but I think there's just a wide gap in knowledge and being able to actually be able and skills to be able to analyze all of these extensions. And it's not just analyzing one extension one time, but like I said, with the browser ownership or with the extension ownership changes, the extension that you analyze today might be completely different tomorrow. And so through Secure Annex, I'm tracking all the extensions that I'm aware of day in, day out, and putting it through an automated analysis to say, here's the behaviors of this extension. So please log in. It's free. You can look up any extension if you ever had any questions about it. And then I have a monitoring service that basically says, here's the new changes that happen to this extension over time that organizations are really interested in paying for at this time.
Yeah, very cool. I dropped your link inside the chat over there, John, for Secure Annex. Please, everyone go inside the chat. Go check it out. Go play with the tool itself. Free tier is $0 a month, and you get to get some access and messing around with this and some direct security assessment, I guess, from John's company over there from Secure Annex itself.
Everybody has a browser extension. I'm pretty much convinced of it at this point. So, most people have, or some people have more than others. So I've heard stories of somebody has like 40, 50 of them installed. It's kind of like the old toolbars where it takes up half your screen. So, make sure to take a look out, and any old extensions that you might have installed or forgot that they existed in your browser, go look them up again and make sure that they're not doing something a little suspicious before you know it.
Awesome. Well, let's see. Any other last comments? When they close their browser, clear all history, there's a strong chance their data has been passed along via... Yeah, that's a fair comment, and then we can kind of lead off with that. That's true, right? You might think you've cleared everything, but your data's already been exfiltrated, and what then?
It's crazy.
Cool.
Yep.
John, thank you so much. Awesome workshop. Ton of good technical hands-on content. So everyone watching, that is directly what you will do. So what John was doing, that was a lab content that you will do as someone going through his labs and getting deep into the browser extension security space. Very underappreciated, as he said. I agree. Very overlooked as well, too. Sweet. John, thank you.
Thank you all.
Cool. All right. Let's start loading up So back to the other John. We've got
Hey, I'm sorry I keep dropping in and out. Internet and I are wrestling today, but
yep.
Glad we can hang in. So
So we've got another, this is the final workshop of the day, right?
This is the last one for today. Don't forget, hey, you can still keep all your access for like forever. And tomorrow, and then the day next, so we'll keep things cruising. But this has flew by. I don't know about you, but I mean, we were like smooth sailing, and this has been a breeze.
Yeah, this has been really good. Really enjoying it. I kind of wish we had more time, but I mean, like it's a lot to chew on. There's a lot of content.
Yeah, wait till tomorrow. We'll say that. I don't know if we'll say the same thing come Sunday.
Exactly. Yep. Cool. Okay.